As you can see before you, we're going to be talking a little bit about Sonic today. Sonic 1 and 2 we have before us, and at least with regard to this one, this might be the last movie you'll see Jim Carrey in, unless he agrees to come back for something else. He said that he's not leaving the door completely closed behind him when he says he's retiring from acting, but he says that it's gotta be a really damn good movie for him to want to come back. But hopefully he does. Now, I didn't really have too much to say about the first Sonic movie. It was a solid movie. It's a good example of how to get a video game movie done right. It comes with an example of how to listen to the fans in the correct way in regards to changing the CG of a certain character that what you originally was. I did a lot of research in regards to this one, in regards to who worked on it, like all the hands that went into making this second Sonic movie, and I believe it's Marsda Animation Planet that did a lot of the work here. And what's interesting about that fact is that Marsda Animation Planet is a subsidiary of Sega. So technically these were in-house projects, which I think is a very good idea. A lot of people, myself included, thought that these were Paramount movies, that Paramount was the only one working on these, but I'm thinking that Paramount was simply just partnering with this, and that Sega was the one making most of this in-house, you know? Now, story-wise, this is original from the original IP and all that stuff. There's original characters, James Marsden, for example. There's a lot of unique stuff in here, and then there's a lot of stuff reminiscent of the games, particularly in the second one, which I found fantastic. In regards to Knuckles and his personality and his character, I understand why they went with the Drax route. The Drax route, the fish out of water thing, it turned out to work with the Drax character, but as I will eventually say with the Guardians of the Galaxy retrospective, I thought the Drax was done pretty dirty. While I like the character of Drax and his whole taking everything literate and all that stuff, he was very funny. The problem with Drax is that he's been nerfed beyond redemption. He's just a thug. A dumb, funny thug. The difference here is that while Knuckles is picking up the Drax trope of being like the funny man, of taking all things literally and saying weird things about different concepts like the base of ball, calling baseball the base of ball, and that's all funny, right? We laugh at that stuff, but Knuckles, unlike Drax, has the power behind his fists. And that's the thing that Drax was lacking. Drax was lacking that strength that his character origins had. He was very strong in the comics, but he was very weak in the movies. Nerfed beyond repair, beyond redemption. I'm so glad they did not do that to Knuckles. He is very powerful in this film. He is very strong. He is animated expertly. He is voiced by Idris Elba. For this one, I bet there's gonna be a Japanese dub. It's just very well done. And the original voice actress for Tails comes back as well. And there's some things I have wrong with this movie, but in regards to this one, I don't have too many things wrong. It was very original. It was an original take. It was an original story. While Sonic has a lot of modern-day references, pop culture references, he's doing a lot of that just to be funny. But you gotta understand that these movies aren't made for us old, late 20-somethings, us the 30-somethings, you know, the millennials, or the Gen Xers who were young during the late 80s or the early 90s who played these Sonic games, so the Master System and the Genesis and the Game Gear. This isn't for us. Though, at the same time, the creators took us into consideration, if that makes sense. All these movies are family movies. They're made to appease the children. in the audiences. They also realized that the fans of Sonic would probably consist also large demographically of people who played the original Sonic games in the 80s and the 90s, and they're probably going to want to see this movie too, and since they're all in the adult crowd, they all have got the whole careers and living wages and all that stuff, and they're going to have disposable income to come see these movies with their kids. The parents are going to be fans of Sonic just as much as the kids in this new generation of climate, right? Generation Alpha are the children of the millennials, man. So, or the Gen Xers, the younger Gen Xers, the children of the children are the children of the parents who grew up on this ancient IP back in the day. The kids may have played the newer Sonic games, but the parents played the Master System and the Genesis Sonic games. We have two generations of people who played these games who are now satisfied with what these films are doing. Like, they cater to the young audiences, they cater to the adult audiences, and that is fantastic to me. And one of the breakout characters in this is Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey is emulating his 90s persona, as everybody has said. He is emulating that energy that he had in the 90s, that we all knew and loved from Ace Ventura, from Liar Liar, especially from The Mask. There's a lot of energy that Jim Carrey still has, and you could tell that he really enjoys playing this character. And maybe he might have been a fan of the games when back in the day, during the late 80s and the early 90s. He might have been out there playing those original Sonic games on the Master System. He might have been one of those guys. He might know who Robotnik is, and he might have followed the character. Who knows? But he is channeling that energy, that passion that you could see in his face. He's having a great time playing this character, and he has aged really well. He looks like he could be a skinnier Robotnik. Robotnik is round like an egg. But in this, he is not a round boy animated cartoon character. He is a live-action cartoon character that Jim Carrey has always been. We have always made the jokes that Jim Carrey is a cartoon character in all of his movies, and then he made The Mask, who basically became a cartoon character. He does something. He has that certain type of quality, that certain type of energy that really brings life to these types of characters, to these types of roles that he chooses. And I can't see too many other people playing Eggman. Not Eggman. I can't see too many people playing Robotnik the way that Jim Carrey plays this character. And what else can I say? James Marsden's fine. I always called him Cyclops because, I've watched the 1999-2000 X-Men movies, and James Marsden is Cyclops. He's Cyclops in those first 3 movies, and he was great in them. I think I saw a couple other movies, Enchanted, or is it Ellen Enchanted? I don't know which one, but he plays somebody in there. I think he plays some sort of prince or something. He's been in a lot of stuff. I just haven't seen a lot of other stuff that he's been in, so he's always going to be Cyclops to me. I think he was in a movie called Hop, an Easter movie. Anyway, he's excellent in these movies, though I would argue that there is a shift of tone in the Sonic 2. Now, this movie comes out from the opening titles swinging. It comes out running. It's a very fast-paced movie to fit the titular fast-paced character. Though there is a shift of tone. There is 2 movies technically coming through here at the same time. And there's like a conflict of interest as how do we carry on story and plot elements from this movie while at the same time introducing all of the stuff that we introduce, and how can we fit all of this into this runtime. A lot of people have said that this movie could be cut by 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes. I would say that actually that's not the problem. It feels shorter. This movie is, how long is it? Why do they always make the text so friggin' dark? 98 minutes. This movie is 98 minutes. Let's see this one. This movie is 122 minutes. This is 24 minutes longer than the first Sonic movie, but the miraculous thing is that the sequel does not feel longer. There is so much in here that it actually feels like a really short movie as you're trying to take in all of the information that happens. There are parts where the film slows down, but at the same time, you need those parts. You need these characters to stop eventually and just take in being alive in this world and existing in it for a while instead of just going through plot after plot after plot. If you took out those 20 minutes, you would have nothing but an extremely fast-paced movie with no downtime at all. And I would honestly say that downtime is important, especially when you're building character. There's a moment in this film, in a certain Siberian hut, after a certain dance-off sequence, that really, really pulls your heartstrings. I want to talk about the character of Tails. I would say that Tails is one of the weaker parts of the movie for the new elements being introduced. Tails has a lot of potential as a character. He's animated perfectly. Knuckles was animated perfectly. And they would have to be there. The animation studio that I believe was working on the CG with this, they're a Sega subsidiary, so naturally they have the rights to all of that stuff. They have the rights to all the games. Sega has the rights to all of its stuff, right? So they put the best in here, so I'm not having any problems with the CG in this film, or this film. I think that Marza Animation Planet, whatever we call it, I think they came in after that original design of Sonic, and they were like, "We're gonna do this from now on. We're gonna fix this. We're gonna do the CG from now on." Is it right? So I have no problem with the designs, but the character, the plot, and the time allotted to this. There's a lot of stuff in here that you could have written Tails completely out of the story and made it just a Sonic and Knuckles story, and you would have lost very little. There is very little in here that Tails did not need to be here for, though I am very happy that he's here. There's just not a lot that he does in here, because there's just too much other things in here. I could argue that if you scrapped the James Marsden plotline and gave that runtime, not take out 20 minutes of the film, but reallocate that 20 minutes that you put towards this plotline towards fleshing out Tails more, you would have had a stronger film with the stronger new characters. There's just too much going on. It's really fast paced. There's a lot going on in here that you just don't have enough time for your new elements. They put a lot on Knuckles, and he's great. His dynamic with Robotnik is very excellent. It's very good. There's a joke at the end, ending scene of this movie, that it's excellent. Their stuff is great. Sonic and Tails is dynamic. Their charisma, their bonding, that's great. But we just don't have enough time with these two characters. Unlike this, we can see a lot of stuff with these two characters that makes it work. But with this, we just don't have too many times for them to breathe. There's just that one dance-off sequence that is fine. It's for the younger audiences, but we just don't have enough time to build character between these two. But they do use the little time that they do build character really well. I want to say that the time that they use to build that character, they do it really well. We're not talking about that scene in the Siberian cabin. There is a scene where Tails falls asleep, and Sonic puts a blanket over him, right? And he lays down next to Sonic in front of the fireplace to keep warm, because it's Siberia, it's really cold there. And Tails' tails just pop out from under the blanket and they act as a blanket for Sonic, and that was like an moment. That was a nice little sweet little moment to show the friendship between these two characters that is starting to grow, and that was great. I thought a lot of this stuff was great. There's this thematic feel to these films that really feels like they feel like a Sonic movie. They don't feel like a studio is just using this IP to make some money. They are made to make money. They are made to make money. This made more money than this one, though this had a higher budget than this one. So I would say that they both broke a little bit even in regards to profit, because this had a couple $1 million less in budget. and it made less money than this movie made. This made more money than this one, but it cost more money to, you know what I mean, you know. I'd say it broke even, but it still turned over a profit. It turned over quite a big profit, and it warrants a third movie that's going to come out in 2024, and we already know what it's going to be about since that mid-credit scene teased it, you know, and that's going to be excellent. I think it's going to be excellent, and even if Jim Carrey doesn't come back, they left his fate ambiguous. They don't finalize how he might be dead or he may not be dead. So if that, they left that door open for Jim Carrey to return if he ever wanted to return for Sonic 3 or Sonic 4. Because I do think that the way these films are going, the way this sequel worked against this sequel, they tried to carry a lot of the plot elements. They started with this, but they tried to make it more like the games in this one, and I think they did a really good job for what they could do, for what they tried to do. They could have done a little bit better, but they could have done a whole lot worse. You know, there's so many video games movies out there that just don't succeed as well as these two movies did, and that's why I'm being very kind to them, and I really want these to succeed. I really want these to get out there. I want the third movie to be made. I want there to be a fourth one. I want there to be a fifth one. This is how you do it, you know. You got an animation studio in-house, a subsidiary of the IP creator of Sonic working on these projects. You have Sega coming in to make consolations and offering up their IPs of the storylines from the games that they could put into the movies, and that is how you do it. That is how you make these movies. You have some sort of in-house participation. That's the best way to do it. You don't just license it completely to somebody else and let somebody else completely take the reins. No, you need to take part somehow. So if there's a live-action Resident Evil movie in the future, I want Capcom to have a role in it. I want them to have a role in the movie. I want them to have part of their CG animation studio come in to work on the CG characters in the animation part. I want some of the storyboard writers to be people who worked on the games' story to come in to offer their support. I want it to be a partnership, not completely separate doors. And that's why I think these films worked, is because Sega had a lot of in-house participation with these movies, and that is excellent. I think that is excellent. These are very good movies, and I really want you to check them out. And I am definitely saying that 2024 can't come soon enough. I want to see Sonic 3. It's going to be excellent, I think. I hope. I really do. Be imaginative, everybody.